Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me JP Roth and Dawn McTeigue, or McTeigue.
Hello.
I'm not too sure which one it is at this point, and I should know better. I know,
No one knows. It's one of the universal questions. We won't know.
and obviously we're here because you two have a Kickstarter currently running, The Art of Divinica. So welcome to the show, both of you. Obviously, Dawn, you've been on before, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on with this. So I'm super excited.
So excited.
It's very exciting.
Okay, I'm just sharing really quickly to my page.
So we can get people.
More people to watch me knock it out of the park. I'm looking forward to it.
It'll do amazing.
So obviously, I kind of want to start, before we dive into the Kickstarter, what is Divinica? Because a lot of people on my page probably haven't heard of this, and I know a bunch of people who I'm going to be sharing this into all these groups might have heard of it, might not have heard of it. And so what is the basic premise of the comic?
Me or you, Dawn?
You go. I'm sharing.
Okay, I'll share after you. It is a goddess anthology. We initially started by wanting to do a 13 goddess series based on the lunar calendar of 13 months. We've picked a goddess from pretty much every pantheon of mythology. I have tried very hard to follow the legends. I've added a bit of my own flair, and Dawn has definitely added her flair to the art. The series has evolved since we initially began, and now we're actually at the part of Divinica where we are trapped in this very alternate reality with no time, where the earth has basically just folded in on itself, attacked itself in a way. And Divinica finds herself falling back and forth between the lives of these goddesses. And we don't really know why. And it's fun.
And so to dive a little bit into that, and also talk a little bit about where did even the premise of this come from, because it is dealing with a bunch of different cultures. There are elements of Chinese culture and Chinese goddesses and mythology. Mm-hmm. And there's obviously Egyptian and Roman and Greece and some other things as well. And so where did all that come from in the basic premise? Because it is a very different book than what is out there. And it is, something that is representing probably a whole side of mythology that isn't touched upon. When I grew up in high school years ago, we spoke about Roman and Greek mythology, and that's where it stopped. And it goes much further into mythology and even dealing with gods and a variety of other things that you don't learn necessarily in high school. And so where did all that come from? And what was even the research like for that?
Well, Dawn and I grew up all over the world. I grew up actually in Japan for a majority of my life. So a lot of Asian mythologies and cultures were very imprinted on me, I think, from a young age. I also spent time in Africa and all over Europe. So I always wanted to represent all the different goddesses, but many of the same goddess can be found through different mythological stories. You can find Athena in Asian mythology, you can find her in Roman mythology, even all the way to the more modern mythologies like Mayan in a way. Hi. So I tried to pick which we wanted to represent all the different cultures and bring them all in. Right, Dawn?
Absolutely, yes. And as far as that too, at conventions, it'll happen a lot. And even now when we're doing live streams together and stuff, people will pop in and be like, hey, please do one from where I'm from. Please represent our, region in your comic book series. Pick this goddess. We have some suggestions. So it's really cool. It's bringing a whole comic community together, which is awesome. Or just, mythology lovers. Yeah.
But we definitely had the goddesses we wanted to use, and then we just picked with which mythological story from which culture to use.
Yeah.
We want to touch on all the mythologies. Native American has beautiful mythology as well. So we do have the Nokomis goddess as well, the moon goddess. Hopefully we touch them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because the first 4 issues of Divinica, obviously we deal with Aphrodite and Gaia. We deal with Nokomis. I'm going to get who she faces wrong too, so I'm not even going to attempt. It's like Waga. I mean, this should be like the
this
new
is so
DUI
good.
test right here. It's the new DUI test to pronounce these names. If you can pronounce these names when you're intoxicated, clearly, you should just be right off. In fact, they should give you an award because clearly I would fail and a bunch of other people would fail too. And we would fail when we're sober, which makes this even worse. And then Ias and Ra, and obviously the only reason how I know Ra is from Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So obviously got cool stuff going on. So what was, because that's the first 4, and we really get a real insight into the first 4 before we even get to issue 5, which is the Vinica, and kind of where she's at in her trap world. And so what was that entire thing like, setting it up in the story and setting up all these different goddesses and their quests and I guess their fights and their plights and trying to figure out how to survive and deal with their internal struggles that happen in mythology. So that's what the first 4 issues sort of deal with in some degree.
Yeah. And all the goddesses have their own symbols and their own artifacts, no matter what area of mythology they come from. And the crux of our story is that Divinica is from a world without gods or goddesses of any kind and without the powers they bring. She falls through fire and travels to these different times, to these lives of these goddesses to collect these artifacts and bring them back to her world and fix the tear in reality and bring everything back together. She's very in the dark when she first begins, and even passing through all these goddess stories kind of illuminates her further path. We're even going to introduce Hecate, who is the Greek goddess of witchcraft and myth, which I'm excited about that one.
Me too.
Our next goddess is Kali. So she's going to move through. She needs to stop war. She needs to stop famine. She needs to stop hunger. Global warming has destroyed everything. Time is lost. People experience these shock waves that cause them to forget their family, their loved ones. So yeah, she has to find a reason to even care, which I think a lot of the gods struggled with. So she has to, go back in mythology and get into these stories. It did happen organically, though. I wanted Dawn to have a character to draw who was strong and powerful and one she really liked. So it definitely happened organically.
Divinica has such a cool attitude. She's a bit of a badass and kind of snarky and grumpy, and I love it.
That's what makes characters real, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we all know, and I used to be a big Superman fan, but at a certain point, I want to see Superman like blow up Earth.
Yeah.
Because let's be realistic. I mean, he has a bunch of good reasons to do it. I mean, and it's unreal to be this like red, white, and blue patriotic, good old boy doing the right thing 100% of the time type of character. It gets old because it's not real. It's not relatable. Like one of my favorite books is Superman Red Son, because we get a very different perspective on Superman. And then when we do get these grumpy characters and these characters who have imperfections and have personality traits that are less than desirable per se, you can relate to them. It's actually relatable. And this is one of the things that I like about Divinica and the entire series, is that it's actually relatable. It's real. Even though we're not necessarily dealing with real things, because all these people have equating to superpowers, but what's behind all that is real. And I think that's what makes it stand out, on top of the fact that the art is a very cool style. It's watercolor.
Oh, thank you.
And sort of acrylic-y, I guess is how I describe it. It creates a super cool visual effect that is very different than out there. And so what was that even like, figuring out that style and then matching it up with the writing? Because J.P. Roth is the writer and Dawn is obviously the artist on it, and then matching up both of that stuff together. And even just, I would imagine there's some experimentation even figuring out how to do that as well.
Oh, there still is. In Divinica 6, the first 3 pages are all painted in a different medium because I'm trying to make up my mind right now. But the nice thing is that J.P. Roth and I go way back. Like, we knew each other when we were little kids. We've worked together now in comics for 10 years. So I don't really feel like there's any time where we're in the art and the comic, there's such a flow. Correct me if I'm
organic.
wrong.
No, it's very
organic.
It kind of evolves.
Yeah. And so we're kind of figuring it out on the fly. Like when we
We're
started,
evolving.
yeah, we did the first 3 issues. I colored them in Copic marker. And then we are trying to give each issue the look of the region that we're portraying and all of that. So JP Roth was like, well, for Magoo, she felt that it would be more in keeping with the style and it would have a cohesive feel if it was done in watercolor. And I'm like, I don't know how to use watercolor. And she's like, well, learn. And so I did. And that trust that she put in me in order to like just learn something new and fill a comic book that, you know, is under her name and all of that. It's so awesome to have that kind of, to have a writer and a publisher have that kind of trust in you is amazing. So now she lets me, you know, acrylic, gouache. So what are you painting this page with today is kind of the question, which is awesome.
It's good though. It's good. It makes it more adventurous, and it's a way we can honor each of these time periods and each of these cultures, because culture is very represented in art. In the style and the layout and how it's executed is different for every different region of the world. Even to this day, art just varies, but it really did back in the day. You could really tell where it was from. So we hope to stay pretty true to that. I feel like Dawn has done an incredible job. We even picked the Asian Chinese region for the mythology that we chose, which dynasty we used, which is a whole different art style in itself in the same culture. It's pretty amazing.
And one of the things that I do want to bring up is that for those who don't know, Dawn does both painting as well as digital. And if you go on Dawn's Facebook page, you could see a bunch of cool stuff that's coming out with Zenescope and the entire cyberpunk stuff. And I have a bunch of those covers, and I'm looking forward to buying a bunch more of those covers.
Oh, thanks, Andrew.
And that's all done in very much a digital way, which is a very different medium, and a lot of Divinica is done in a painting, and it's actually done whether you're doing it in Copic markers, which is actually physically doing it versus doing it digitally, and or a combination of the two. So it is a very different book when you
have a page I'm working on right now. So
and there's a few other artists like Sia Ohm does some stuff very much where she'll color all Lola with Lola XOXO, pretty much with Copic marker and pens and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very different reading experience and art style, and it's not necessarily perfect, but it really gives a different entire experience to the reader. So that's something that I do want to highlight with this book versus other books that are either colored completely digitally or they're the combination. This is completely done in an awesome way that does take time. So when you're picking up this book, and then we're going to get into the Kickstarter in a second here, but I do have to talk about my favorite topic before we get to that, which is I'm a cover guy. Everybody who knows me knows I like comic covers for a variety of reasons, both because I make money selling comic book covers, buying and selling on eBay, as well as I like cover art. My Instagram is full of it. And Divinica as a collective has a boatload of covers, everything from 250 print runs all the way down to, I think, 10 print run covers and everything in between. And it's an awesome business model in many ways. When you have super exclusive, I think certain companies have been doing it for years, and it's a brilliant business.
We have.
It also makes it, more desirable. It also, I feel, adds more significance to it when there's only 25 of a particular book out there, and then there's not going to be a 26th. And also it makes that book more special. It makes it more collectible. It makes it more of a piece of art in many ways. Even a 250 print run or a 350 print run in a comic printing makes it much more of a piece of art than something that is, 5,000 print run.
Yeah.
So what was
it
that?
It also makes people want to chase it, which is the fun. I love to collect Magic the Gathering cards. I'll chase them anywhere. I know the hunger. I know the need for the collection.
I really
have to have it all.
Generation of horrific campers on Magic the Gathering. So I legitimately had parents not very happy with me as a camp counselor, teaching their children how to actually do math, playing Magic the Gathering, which is ironic because I failed math, but that's neither here nor there. But Yeah, even what was that like? What was that decision like to have all these exclusive covers? And a bunch of them are still available on rothcomics.com, everybody. Buy the merch.
Yeah, thank you. It was actually Eric Basaldua, Ibas. He helped us. He told me, he helped me draw the book. He told me to sell it for more. I didn't know that comics cost $3.99 in the, on the whole. I really didn't. I think I always just bought it in trade paperback form. I don't think I ever, so I just didn't know. So when I went out onto the floor in Anaheim Comic Con for the first time, I sold my 24 pager for $20 because I thought, well, that's fair. It cost me $11 to make the thing. Let's make some money off of it. But I think that was really weird to everybody because people were like, a $20 comic, like for what? And this was a while ago before many comics were that price.
Also,
I know
manga is very different in Japan.
Very different. That's right.
Blown out. You can legitimately go through a subway car in Japan, and the latest chapter of One Piece will legitimately just be left behind.
That's right.
It's not viewed the same. And manga's what, like, I don't know what yen equates to, but it's almost like $2-3 of the equivalent, and it's meant to be read and just left on when you're on your commute, essentially. So it's a very different environment in Japan. But continue, because this is super interesting, because I love talking about Ebas. I love Ebas.
Well, yes, me too. I love him. He's the sweetest. He helped us so much. He let us stand at his table. He drew for us. I think he really believed a lot in what we were doing and saw a lot of potential in it. I remember standing at San Diego 2012, I want to say, selling the first Southern Nightgown cover. I was selling it for $15. I think the raw version is like almost $2,000 right now online, not even graded. The graded has gone for more, and I was selling it for 15, like 10 years ago or however many years ago. And Eric was like, what are you doing? There's only a certain amount of them. Sell them for at least 40. And so I did, and we sold clean out. And every time after that, I just kind of started realizing, wow, the higher I'm putting the price, the more desirable it seems we're making the item here, and almost, giving that chase to people so that they can collect it, because there's so few available for them to get their hands on. And I think it just kind of morphed from there. And then everybody started doing it, and it started being in big demand. I know Zenoscope was playing around with it too. So I think it was all kind of, we did it around Ebas, I think.
About 3 or 4 companies that have been doing this for a long time. Aspen is sort of one of them. Zenoscope. Obviously, you have been doing it.
It started way more, like in the last 10 years. It's definitely become a bit of a steamroll. So now a lot of people are doing.
Now a bunch of comic shops have a 3,000 print run, and then also on the indie scene. I know you guys are new to Kickstarter. I have a bunch of friends who have 100 print runs, and that's it. They print 100 of a book, of a particular type of book, purposely, and then that's it, and that's where it's going, because they know their audience can support that 100 print exclusive thing specifically meant for Kickstarter, and then maybe 10 go to their web store. But obviously, I'm a big exclusive guy. I've done very well in the eBay market on it, and I'm doing very well, and I think it's only going to become bigger. And I really think that that's a business model for a lot of companies, and if you're not doing it, obviously for all the comic people out there and all the comic companies, this is the way to go.
It is. It's like adding appreciation to your own product. Like it's betting on your product to self-appreciate, which I think is a good business model. It's saying, this work is so good, it's worth this, and then kind of raising the bar up to that, and then you can only really go higher. You never back down that bar.
And my favorite quote, and I think it applies in so many ways, is that you either have to be the cheapest, the most expensive, or the most valuable. Yeah. You can't be the second most expensive, the second cheapest, and the second most valuable. It's one of those 3, and it applies to business. And, a $50 book, somebody stops and says, okay, why is this going for $50, and why do I need to buy it? And those questions. And when you're trying to sell me something and I never heard of you, but you say, hey, this book is $50, I'm going to stop at least and take a look at it or think about it, which is, at least now we're in the middle of a sale. Whether that sale goes through or not, that's a whole different business entity. But the reason why I want to bring all of this up and all these covers up is it kind of leads into the Kickstarter with everything that's going on with Divinica and that entire Kickstarter, which is I guess the first volume or issue of The Art of Divinica.
Right.
And so what prompted the two of you want to go make an art book at this stage? I think it covers the first 4 or 5 issues of the best of the art in the series so far, and along with a bunch of other cool stuff. Some prose are in there, some poetry's in there, as well as some original art and some behind the scenes stuff. And so what prompted all of this? Because it's a cool
Everybody
book.
forced us to do it. We didn't want to. Everybody made us. That's my answer. I don't know what Don's is.
Well, as far as the Kickstarter, yes, everybody, really was like, girls, you've gotta. I mean, people have been telling us we need to like get our butts in Kickstarter for a long time. And we've just been like, well, we'll see. And then as far as like what prompted the idea to do an art book and a calendar, was honestly, that's kind of how Divinica started. We wanted to do it as we're doing now. And then, of course, the idea morphed and we made a comic book series.
It was my fault.
So now we have enough art now with the comic book series rolling, and we are working on issue 6, and JP Roth is writing a novel, maybe, of Divinica, which is so exciting. And so we are just making the art book and the calendar, which are both on the Kickstarter. And we're doing them now because, we figured, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it goes.
How it does.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's a boatload of art to pick from, boatload of covers to pick from, boatload of scenes and other things that are associated with these books and in the first 4 issues. So what was that process of figuring out what pieces to put in, what pieces are significant, and how did that all come about? Because you have a lot of stuff surrounding this project between the two of you and then a variety of other people and input and a lot of cool stuff that's going on. And then also there's original art as well that's sort of thrown into this as well. And getting to, I don't know how Dawn necessarily feels about this, and I'm sure she's going to tell us in a second, but even getting to sort of maybe go backwards and forwards at the same time with some cool art that you didn't get to do that pertains to issue 1 and then issue 3 and issue 4 and issue 2 and that type of thing. Not making any sense. So what was like that into the process of saying, what are we going to put into this book? Because that's what I think people want to know.
That was all Dawn. I just did what they told me to do. I just gave them the writing, and that was all Dawn. But she's had a vision for the art book since the very, very beginning. So
And even going further off of that, because I like a lot of art books, and I'm a big, anime fan, obviously. I have like the Art of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I have other things. I just got Keith Garvey's book, and that's
awesome.
the cool one of all of his pinups from Escape Collectibles. Man, I'm promoting everybody tonight.
Yeah, you are.
So obviously, and I really like art books, and there's a variety of other people who have art books out there too. And it's cool to see their concept art, and it's cool to see art that they've done in comics. And then, because some of this stuff is really expensive with Divinica, and, not everybody can go and drop, $2,000 on a particular cover, but they could spend, $80 on a book to see it. And they could actually look at it, and it's on nice paper. And so obviously you want to give your fans and fans of Divinica and people who aren't fans of Divinica a reason to become fans of Divinica. And so it's kind of tricky to figure out what belongs in the book and what's going to be a cool thing and what's actually relevant to the history of Divinica. Because
it's tricky.
I mean, in many ways, this is a somewhat history, not to the sense of it's almost like a visual history, some of these pieces, and looking backwards, and it's super interesting.
Thank you, Troy. Well, I can't totally speak for the layout of the book, but because we do charge a higher price for our stuff, and because Dawn and I like to be fancy pants, we go 10 times the extra mile to make sure that it is just the best materials, the best production. We really have gone above and beyond with all kinds of extras just to make everybody really feel like, they got what they paid for. And I think the important thing for us was just to represent the goddesses in their best pictures, in their best representations for this art book. But something amazing is that Dawn put together a book called Genesis that unlocked at 70,000, all 24 pages. So yay, we hit that. Everybody, you guys are amazing.
Yes.
But that is focusing on the pieces of the book, even pieces that no one's ever seen, that we just scribbled down while we were on Skype together or something, discussing it. And that is the genesis of how Divinica is made. So I think that the tying in with the art book, you pretty much get a very good idea of each issue and kind of what we went through for the design. She wrote little things on each one, and you can also see from stuff I've written why we chose that goddess, and then in the art, how we chose that goddess.
Yeah.
And so I think for everyone who's never seen this, for people who have seen this series, it's going to be amazing for them because they're going to follow along the whole way. But for people that have never seen it, by the time you put down your art book and your Genesis and your calendar, you're going to really feel like you have a chunk of information on what this is, even if you haven't read all the beginning books.
Yeah.
That's what I think we tried to do as much as we could, really give everyone a good idea. And I wrote a blurb about each of the goddesses, why I chose them, what I wanted to focus on. And then I think she collected pictures accordingly, what our favorite ones were. We have favorites. We have favorite paragraphs and favorite lines. And then Dan picked a bunch of lines from my writing that he thought were significant and put them as quotes on the calendar. So it was really all Dawn and Dan. They just made a hodgepodge of stuff. But I feel like it follows a really cohesive model that you have a very good idea at the end of it what you're getting into. I hope people love the product. We have gone above and beyond. Our production bill is ridiculous. It's more than what we said it was on the Kickstarter by a lot, by a lot more. We way undershot it. It's a massive production bill. So I hope everybody feels like they're really getting something. I have people pay a lot of money for the books. This is a Sabine Rich book, but like if you see the paper, it's this pearl linen paper. The color lay is so pretty. It almost looks like an original drawn straight onto the paper. It's hard to see, but we're going to do some of those as well for the Genesis on the back end. I think I'm trying to force Dan to do it, to do some pearls, but I hope everybody feels like they really get what they pay for. I think they do. Dawn and I go really fancy.
And I'm going to say this before anybody else speaks. This entire Kickstarter is in Canadian.
Yes,
that's right.
It's super confusing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in America. Okay, it's like it's confusing.
For me too.
You say that you're getting 70,000. It's Canadian, right? Like, because everybody's gonna see this, and it's gonna be super confusing. I backed another project from Canada, super confusing about the stretch goals and all that stuff, and I'm just like,
sorry.
No. It's not like it's anybody's fault, but like I'm just looking at it saying, what's going on here? Because Kickstarter automatically converts it to US dollars, and then like all the stretch goals get all messed up, and then everybody's like, what's going on here? Did we hit it? Did we not hit it?
I know.
It's one of those things where it's just like crazy, and it's kind of funny. But I know there's going to be questions when people actually look at this Kickstarter. I just know it because I had questions when I was backing the Kickstarter. I'm a pretty savvy guy on Kickstarter right now, so I just want to throw that out there to make sure that it's Canadian dollars and Kickstarter will convert it for you.
We unlock in about $500. We unlock the next tier, which is the bookmark.
US dollars or Canadian dollars?
Canadian dollars.
About 500 Canadian. We're about 500 away from hitting 80,000 Canadian. I've had to switch to only think of it in Canadian, which is weird because I'm here too. I'm in the States too, and it's weird.
I will also say this. I will say this. If you're in the US, the US dollar is right now stronger than the Canadian.
Absolutely, yes.
So when you look at something in like 95 Canadian, it's not 95 US dollars at the same time.
No.
Keep in mind where it's cheaper than 95.
It's cheaper than how it looks. Yes.
It's better off for everybody too, because if we would have run it here, I would have made it those prices in America, not in Canadian dollars. I would have made it American $100 for that thing, not $74. So y'all got it way cheaper anyway, because I would not have done that. It will be adjusted accordingly next time.
Also, I'm going to say this to everybody else on Kickstarter. Call your bank before you do it and ask if they're going to charge you an international linen fee. Because it can save you about 3% from your bank. So keep that in mind too. Everybody who wants to back this project, if you haven't already backed it, and that's not on you guys at all. It's that most credit cards don't have a problem and they don't charge you an international fee. Debit cards do.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
super important to keep that in mind, everybody who's going to be backing this, because 3% on $100 is $3. And all of a sudden there's things on your Kickstarter that are like $650. 3% on $650 is a decent amount of money. You're talking about a $20 charge that legitimately can be avoided completely if you just put it on your credit card, or you just let your bank know, and then you just turn on international side of stuff in banking. You'll save yourself some money. Just throwing it out there.
Good tip.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It's a little tip. I've been around the block a few times, so keep that in mind, everybody. But even going further off of this, because obviously there's original art in this, and there's new pieces in this book too. So what was that like, getting to draw some new pieces and things that haven't been in Divinica yet? Because that's cool too, and things that are going to be seen for the first time in this art book.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I just went on a tangent and wanted to paint some extra pieces for shits and giggles. And my initial plan was to do 40 of them. And JP and Dan, my husband, talked me off that particular cliff. And so I ended up doing 18. But it was really fun to revisit all the goddesses. Also, for me, I get really critical of my older art. And so I was like, I want to have some new stuff in there. Honestly, I just did it for myself and my own weird situations. But if everybody likes them, that's awesome.
I think we have some of the most beautiful art came from those sketches. Like we were talking about earlier with artists using different mediums, I feel like watercolor and acrylic and stuff like that can be really freeing. You get these amazing pieces, like the fish on the head, that have now just turned into this beautifully iconic piece, and it kind of changes it a bit. I like that too.
Yeah, no, I think what I've seen and what I know, and obviously I know Dawn's artwork a lot with everything that's going on with Zenescope and Divinica and some other cool shit she's done. Obviously, a lot of cool stuff is coming, and there's some cool stuff in this book. From what I've seen, basic pictures, we're going to show a bunch of them. It's cool, just to give everybody a sample in a little bit. But obviously, I do want to talk about that there are two versions of this book.
Correct.
And so there is the nice, clean version of the book, and then there is the Skylad version of the book.
Clad.
So obviously, one of them tends to be more risque, and one of them risque is topless. And there's an additional 16 pages in the topless version, which is more money, and it also has a different cover. And then the clean version is, that's clean. So what was that like in that decision? Because I love topless. I'm obviously a Zenescope fan. I enjoy that. I enjoy art as a whole. I am a heterosexual male who has no male tendencies. So I will throw that out there to everybody out there. Nobody get any ideas quickly. But anyhow, what was that like doing both versions of this book? Because it does hit a certain market where obviously some people don't want to go down the topless route, and other people say, hey, I love it, let's go down this route. And some people might have kids around and don't want their 5-year-old to see a topless art book out on their coffee table.
For sure, which is why we have those two different versions for people. Mythology in so many different art of mythology going back hundreds and thousands of years, there is, they were a lot more comfortable with their nude form than we are now. And I think it was seen a lot more pure than it's seen now. And so honestly, I feel that having them represented in that way is perfectly natural. for them, and perfectly in keeping with the art of those times even. So we just put them in 2 separate books so that everyone would have that option, because there are some people now that are not comfortable with that. But then for those that are, we had art already drawn from from all the different comic book series that had the risque versions. And so then we decided to call it Skyclad, which basically is an ancient pagan term referring to ritual nudity during religious observances, quite literally wearing only the sky. So that's why we decided to call it that. We didn't want to call it naughty or anything like that, because it honestly isn't naughty. It's your body.
And also, it would be a complete misrepresentation to put clothes on many of the goddesses. It would be a complete misrepresentation to put clothes on Aphrodite. That's for sure. I mean, she barely has a wisp of anything covered. And then we have the birth of Venus, where she's covering herself. But for the most part, these goddesses were definitely defined in nude form. So it would seem almost insulting to them if we didn't show off their pretty body. And it can, like, thank you, Rayanne. Rayanne says it's classy. It can be done in a classy fashion. And they were priestesses and queens and symbols of beauty. And also, I want physical confidence to be for people as well. I want people to feel comfortable with it, for men and women. I actually think, I know you said you were the proud male that likes all that, but we have a lot of women that buy our work. I would say just as many women like to buy the Skyclad and the risque than as men. I think everybody, it makes you feel like you're properly immersed in that, in what you're doing.
So this is all just quickly show the clean version. That's what it looks like.
Aw, so pretty.
It's cool. That's cool. And then I'm don't want to get shut down on Facebook, so I'm going to show this, and it is censored out. I'm letting everybody know. You know, when I have to appeal this and I get in trouble on Facebook, this is my defense. This is the other version. So I don't think I've crossed the line yet, Facebook.
No, it's covered.
That one is done by eBass. That's eBass.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to tell eBass's work, everybody. I'm just going to let everybody know, you know, if you go into a comic store and you don't know what eBass's work is, you might want to reevaluate your position.
Reevaluate your fandom.
You might have to go back to school for comics very, very quickly. I'm going to throw that one out there. So obviously those are the 2 versions, and you can get them digital, both of them. Yep. You can also get them physical. You get one or the other, and then there's a bunch of combo packs that are super cool.
Yes.
And I'm not exactly sure, and hopefully you could explain it. There's some stuff with canvases and canvas covers and foil covers, and I'm a little bit confused on that one. So obviously, I'm not exactly sure what a canvas cover looks like. I'm not sure what a foil cover with this book looks like.
I'll go get a book just to show. I'll be right back.
Right. I can explain too. We're doing, no, you get it.
Okay.
You get it. We're doing slipcovers and dust jackets. And then for the ones that have the dust jackets, we're going to print this canvas cover and put the Divinica stamp right there in the middle of the book. And we'll gold foil that stamp. Show, Dawn.
Okay, well, this is not the Divinica book, obviously. But we're doing something like this, where it has a slipcover, and then the book itself, you remove that. Remove that, and then it's a canvas book. And so this one has like a blue stamping on it. I don't believe it's foil, but it's just a blue stamp of something. And ours will be with gold foil. And we've got some really pretty canvas that we're going to do that's kind of shimmery and sparkly, so it's so exciting. And those are the fancy limited books.
There's serious banging going on in my house. I'm not sure what's happening.
And so obviously this is something that is a higher quality, and it's also super limited, where I don't know the full limitation. I know that one of them has almost a 52 limitation, another one has 150 limitation, and then I'm not sure if there's another limitation number in there. But obviously this is very exclusive.
Yeah.
And
What
that's
we're doing with the canvas coated books for the regular book and the Skyclad book, both of those canvas coated books are limited to 150. And then we've divided them up over certain tiers. So the books themselves, you know, some of them come as a set, some of them come individually, and that's why it's broken up in all the different tiers, because we have that 150 spread out between a few different tiers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So when we speak about Divinica and all of certain books that are on Roth Comic Shop, as well as a few are on your website shop, those are limited, and this is also very limited to that degree as well. And so it's a limited book, and there's not going to be another, you know, canvas book after these 150 that are printed. And
Correct.
as I stated, exclusivity, I think, is the king of everything. It makes things wanted, and people want things that you can't get elsewhere necessarily. And then obviously that's something that I want to really get across the table, where when you pick up one of these books or both sets of these books, or you pick up any component of it, well, there you go. So that's something to keep in mind, everybody. And then I think this is one of the dust jackets.
Yes.
Yes. So pretty.
Yeah.
That one's my favorite. I love that piece so much. My favorite.
Thank you, Joe.
And then this is another thing that I think is one of the Deadity packages, right? Hopefully.
Well, that's an interior page, and that one's actually in all of the books.
So there we go. So everybody can get this image.
Yes, everyone's getting that.
Comic that it's from.
Yeah.
Is this. And so it's a lot of cool stuff in that regard. And then what else this is part of the calendar, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
And then this is just a bunch of cool images that are related to it. Well, I'm just going on a roll of putting images up just randomly.
Yay! That's awesome.
I love looking at all the art. You can see all of Dawn's different styles and what she used, like even just between Aphrodite and Isis, Magu, and Nokomis. It's such a good mishmash there of all the different styles that we use. Dawn, that Nokomis up top with the feathers is Copic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And you can also see, like, something that JP Roth, I really want to give her props for this one, is she really thinks a lot about the color scheme of the books. And I think more than the art style itself is the color scheme that changes for every goddess that we are working on, or Divinica's world. Like, she really wanted to think about how to make Divinica's world look so visually different from all the other goddess worlds that we've done so far. And those things make such a huge difference. And Joe, when we talk about, and we're getting started on the art, the first thing we talk about, and this is something Joe started, was the color scheme for the book and the color scheme for the goddess, and how are we going to make sure that they are visually different from one another, even though it's the same.
It can be the same goddess a few times. You know, many people argue Athena throughout mythology, Aphrodite, she appears in so many different cultures.
Yeah.
It was hard to pick, and then you have to pick the legend too. But the colors work with the goddesses, have colors, symbols, artifacts, and some totem or familiar of some kind. I mean, we know it from Dungeons and Dragons and Neverwinter Nights and everything we play, where we have our creature and we have our spell. I mean, it's how it's always been. You have water magic and earth magic and this. So I try and match the goddess to their magic, and then have the color scheme kind of go from there. But Dawn goes crazy shopping and buys insane amounts of paint. And so we have lots to play with. We have like tons of ideas, that like a huge library of stuff to choose from. So pretty fun. For Divinica, we sat for like 2 hours one day and just went through this massive color wheel, just picking the entire, every rock, every tree. So
it's very fun.
And Dawn
hello, Juan.
Hello, DJ. Hello, DJ. Hi, Juan.
These are all your friends. My friends show up. I told them about this. I'm doing this cool thing. They're like, good luck, man. And that's how my friends act. They're like, we're not going to even show up. So all your friends and all your fans are showing up, which I'm totally cool with.
Hello, everyone.
Oh.
Hey, Carmen. Troy Lambert says, did you know the nude man in the Canadian Rush band logo is officially known as Skyclad? Perfect name for the risque version.
Yes.
You're late, Carmen. Fine. Thank you, everybody, for coming and listening.
For being here.
We're like 400 away, people. 400 Canadian dollars away from 80,000.
And so to even go further into this, and obviously there's a bunch of other things too. There's all these pearl prints. I don't know what a pearl print is, so that's my question too.
This paper. It looks like this. It's kind of got it's terrible. You can hardly see it through my camera, but it has this beautiful swirly, almost, it feels like a canvas, like you're printing on a canvas, except it's a piece of paper, and it gives it this beautiful pearl sheen. Can you guys see it, or did I fuzz it out?
It's hard to tell. Like pearlescent paper is hard to take a photo of, and all of those things.
A boy in hand is
it's very
prettiest thing, and it's super thick. I think it's 110. 110?
Yeah. 110, 120.
It's more than 100 pounds. So
yeah.
It's very thick.
Thick cardstock.
It's very thick, yeah. And it's just gorgeous. So having the prints done in this, it gives it this. When you put watercolor on this paper, it looks like an original drawing. It gives it this sense of movement on the page. So I think for the prints, that's going to be exceptional. Carmen says the pearl paper is gorgeous.
Yay!
And so even talk about that, because obviously this adds another thing to it. It also fits very much with Roth comics as a whole, the Vinica, the watercolors, and it makes it pop out. Also, a lot of Kickstarters don't do pearl prints. They don't want to go down that route because it doesn't fit. Also, I would imagine it adds a expense to it.
That paper is not cheap.
It's super expensive. But we like our fancy stuff. So
yes, if it's pretty and sparkly, we're there for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know how many Kickstarters both of you have run. This might be your first. I know that
this is our first.
Our first.
Absolute first.
You've been involved doing variants. I mean, I know you did Jamie Tyndall's.
Yeah, so I've done covers for a lot of Kickstarters. Like I do a lot of Coffin Comics covers and stuff like that. But I draw the cover and I hand it over. I have not been
different.
Involved.
It's different than running one.
It's a lot more work than I thought.
and obviously, a lot of people, they are running their Kickstarter. Their budget is $3,000, and so they're not necessarily going broke, and they're trying to just fund or get $4,000. And so they don't want to go down the idea of adding, I don't know how much pearl paper costs, but they don't want to add another $2,000 worth of expenses or another $5,000 worth of expenses because the economics aren't there for their project per se. And so there's a whole economic side versus other people who the economics are there. Or if you're a big name in the industry, which we're starting to see a lot more come into Kickstarter, you're doing 400,000. All of a sudden, you could do bigger rewards and have different type of paper and all sorts of stuff. And so obviously with your project, it works because I think the art fits with the concept of what pearl paper is supposed to do, the style of it, and even this entire concept, because it almost creates more of an experience versus, just now you're not just back in a comic. It's an experience type thing, which I think is now also shifting. So what is that entire thing like for both of you? And I think we answered part of it, but you're almost creating that experience because this paper definitely goes and brings out more out of the comic, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully with all the papers and everything that we use. Calendar is really fancy. The bookmarks are going to be all felt touch, like soft like velvet, with gold foil stamps on them. I mean, we really went the extra mile. So the only reason we didn't put fancy $1 tassel each on our bookmarks is because we didn't want to bend the bookmark. Otherwise, we would have gone all the way that far too.
Exactly.
We always want to sell it separately or stuff. So I hope that it is a full experience for the fingers and the eyes, because everything is going to be, if you bought that $600 suite, even the $300 suite, really going to get a lot of amazing stuff in your hand that I hope will.
And even the cover of both books have some feeling and touching and some UV to it
Yeah.
as well. And so there's some cool coding, I guess. And obviously one of the things that's starting to happen now, and I don't know if either you know Tyler James from Comics Tribe, and he does a lot of stuff, and he has an entire Kickstarter class that helps a lot of indie creators sort of master Kickstarter. And one of the things that he does in his books is he plays a lot with covers, and he almost has like cutout covers and like UV. And then somebody called Travis Gibb, he had a glow in the dark cover for a book, and it like you put it under the sunlight, and then you turn your lights off, and it goes in the dark. And so a lot of stuff is happening now in the entire realm of building graphic novels beyond just comic books. And people say print is dead. I think print is beyond alive. I think it's become a lot more creative because it goes back to, and more value needs to be added to it.
Yeah, sure.
And so I feel like this is what you guys are doing really, really efficiently, is adding a lot of value.
Oh, yay.
I think it's awesome.
Maybe we go a little over the top sometimes.
But we so care. So
we would have made it that fancy whether we hit our goal or not. If no one would have given us a red stand, we still would have done
because we just wanted them pretty.
I want to table that concept for 1 second. I do want to ask something before, and we sort of glossed over, but I want to make sure everybody knows that when you do pack a package that has those pearl prints attached to, whether it's 1, 4, or 10, one of the things that you can actually choose which ones you want. Yes. And that's something that's cool too. And I think there's like 14 or 16 of them, I want to say.
20. I believe there's 20 total, yeah. Again,
I failed math, so don't come at me. There's a reason why I'm doing this and not writing calculus formulations here. There's a good reason why. But there's a lot of choice.
Yeah.
Is the ultimate point I'm making. And so
a lot of choices.
Your favorite 10 or 4 or 1 that you want, which is a very nice thing. And it's cool to give people choice, and choice matters in many ways. That's why we see a bunch of comic variants and a bunch of other stuff. And I think that's fantastic. And so what is that like for you, knowing that your readers and your viewers and people who love Divinica get to pick their favorite prints and pearl prints they want?
Well, I think it's important to us, because even while I'm drawing all of these live, there's people that will feel more attached to a certain one more than another. Like it might be their favorite color, or, it might be their favorite goddess. And of the few that I drew of that goddess, that happens to be the one they like the most. And so we felt like it was really important to give everybody that option, that they could pick the ones that they want, because art is such a subjective thing. And, what's one person's favorite is not somebody else's. And so we didn't want to lock people in, and it would be easier for us if we had locked everyone in. So much easier. But this way, hopefully we will have it so that when everyone hits the backer kit, they'll be able to see all the pearls, and then they can choose their favorites. And if they want to add on more, they can. But at least in there, if whatever tier they happen to have backed, it, like you said, it comes with 4, it comes with 6 or 10 or however. And we did try to make it that in all those different tiers that are on the Kickstarter right now, you're getting a deal. So, we are lumping things in together so that, when you break all those costs apart, the people who got the deity tier are getting the best deal. And then
best deal, yeah.
And then it goes down from there for quantity, basically. And then when you were mentioning something about like the limited edition nature of things.
Carmen.
Yay, Carmen. The limited edition nature of this Kickstarter, there's the limited 150 books that are in the deity tiers, but there's also the Genesis book is going to be incredibly limited. That we are giving a full 24-page comic as a stretch goal. Like, I don't know if I've seen anyone else do that. I shouldn't speak out of turn.
I know people who've done that.
People have done that. Okay, never mind then. But still,
it's a very big goal, and I don't think people are fully aware of how big a goal that is. Printing comic books is tricky and it's complicated. It could be very expensive. It could be very cheap, depending on what you're printing them on. the people who did that printed a glow-in-the-dark special edition
Oh, damn.
exclusive book that was
Wow.
like blood splattered for their first thing, and they were
Cool.
happy to do it, and there was maybe like 5 left over. After they
that.
there too. And they
Probably
did it,
costs a fortune.
and so it was expensive, and they
Yeah.
were happy to do it because it actually helped their business tremendously. But the idea is that, but if you're printing something on newspaper print, essentially, it's going to be significantly cheaper, or if you have a certain type of volume, or if you know that a comic shop's going to order 10,000 and you're giving, and you need to print another 1,000, it changes the dynamic. But for the most part, printing an entire another book, because what people don't understand is there's the actual printing of it, but then there's the actual work that goes into it. When
It's going to be printed like this. So it's super pretty. It'll look a lot like this one.
So for those who don't understand, in DC Comics and mainstream comics, writers and artists get page rate numbers. And depending on how good you are and where you are, how, I guess, famous you are, you get paid per page in writing, or you might get a flat deal depending on the company sometimes. So whatever that cost is, that's the actual labor, and then there's the entire printing of it. And then those two things combined is what the company has to do to break even. I mean, I know this is inside baseball, and I'm breaking every trope and rule in comics right now. But that, and the point I'm trying to make with this entire concept is that when you're producing a whole 24-page comic, it's all of that that's as a stretch goal. So it's expensive.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is.
These numbers are now turning. So apply a $250 page rate per person in the book, and that should give you an idea of how expensive to produce a 24-page comic is. 24 pages of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Times that by 3 people, and there you go. So I'm just breaking every rule. I'm gonna get in trouble. Everybody's gonna get.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna.
Right, Troy, I was just thinking that.
I know exactly how much it costs to produce Dark Knight Metal. I know exactly how much it costs. This is my business. This is legitimately my business as an investor to know all of this.
Yeah.
I know exactly how much it costs, and I think I'm probably off by about $4,000 on that number, and not in the right direction.
Well, the page rate of artists goes up and down, but the way we're working on it with this one is we're just doing a creator-owned. We're just going in it together.
Yeah.
So it's a little
Yeah.
different, but
It
it
is.
depends on which artist you're working with. You can go from $60 a page to $1,200 a page, both of which I've paid. It's really very nebulous, and it depends on the artist. I don't even know what Eric would charge you for an interior page right now, but it wouldn't be
Yeah.
that's for sure. It would be
ouch.
painful. It'd be way worse than $250. There's the creation of a comic and the production of the comic. And a lot of people don't realize that actually, every panel is gold. That's right. And that's why I try and make covers out of every single panel so that I can make the money twice
My
off the art.
point I'm making is that it is expensive to produce comics.
It's very expensive. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's cheaper than producing a television show.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it that way, but it's still not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not at all. And if you're printing in large quantity, it becomes very not cheap. Then maybe I could go do a cheap television show for around the same cost. Depends how many you're printing and how famous the artists are that you're working with.
There's a whole side of the business.
Yeah, it's
and,
pretty
that's
crazy.
for my other show completely. That's a whole different conversation, and I don't want to open up Pandora's box because I still would like to work in the industry at some point. And I don't want to have to buy AT&T and buy a 51 stake to work in the industry. So I only need to like $102 billion. So if anybody wants to give me $102 billion, I will happily buy all of AT&T for you in that circumstance. You will, as my first executive action as CEO, I will buy Crunchyroll back. But that's a different discussion for a whole different day. But anyway, so obviously I was going to ask about Backer Kit because I think Backer Kit is gold. I think it's the best thing Kickstarter's done in forever. And so obviously I was actually going to ask about those pearl prints because I know immediately people are going to want it because most people are going to want to put this stuff up on their wall. It's
Yeah.
the type of
Yeah.
that's
Well, we
nice.
have some very special stuff saved for Backer Kit. You're going to be able to buy everything for the most part that was in the Kickstarter. We're also going to have a bunch more bookmarks. We're going to have some Skyclad bookmarks as well. And these are big, gorgeous, more like a small art panel than anything else.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to have some very surprising things and new covers that you're only going to be able to get for Genesis. We actually have some special things for Backer Kit. We're hoping to reel you guys all in one more time.
So you're going to be doing my second favorite topic, which is called funnelinics, the upsell. And
we're going to have.
I'm a big ClickFunnels fan, everybody. I think ClickFunnels is a brilliant thing. That's what Kickstarter is. In case you didn't know, Kickstarter is a gigantic funnel. And then Backer Kit is called an upsell. It's brilliant. They legitimately took that from ClickFunnels, undeniably. I'm willing to put my life on that argument. And I love it. I think it's great because you're giving people products and you're able to sell more products that people want to buy. And it's awesome. And I love it. And I love when there's Backer Kits that have exclusive products in them because that makes complete sense.
It's going to have 6 or 7, maybe 8 exclusive products in it.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
So,
and then also covers you're going to have to chase through the Backer Kit that only if you backed our Kickstarter can you even have a chance of getting your hands on those eBass covers and those Dawn covers that will be in there. And, you know, they'll never be anywhere else outside the Kickstarter. We're going to limit them to 50. Even not everyone who sponsored the Kickstarter is even going to get a shot at one of these books because we'll make it so limited and so special.
Yeah.
For these covers, and we have lots of ideas. I have lots of ideas, so we'll have some surprises.
And then to even go further, and these are all gone. There was original artwork that was up for grabs too, and that's all gone. And I know that I backed on the first day or the second day. I was one of the early backers.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was expecting it to come out in February. So you guys.
Us too.
There's been a bunch of people who've been late on Kickstarters, and I'm waiting for your Kickstarter to drop. Budgeted, legitimately. I'll explain really quickly. So when I back a Kickstarter, I actually have to budget that money out of my daily, monthly budget. So I purposely know projects are coming. But when somebody says, "Oh, I have a project coming in the next 2-3 months," I start putting that money aside then and now so I can actually afford it.
Good.
Oh, interesting.
Because my money, I'm the master of my money is not the master of me. And so this is why I have to pick and choose my projects. And when I back a project and it can fund or it can't fund, whether it funds or not, I already backed it. Whether I get charged isn't the issue anymore. If I spend $60 on a project, that $60 is gone. And then if I get charged, that works out great for everybody. If I don't get charged, I don't get charged. But now I have $60 that I didn't have before because I budgeted for it to be spent.
Right.
And so Kickstarter very differently than other people where I'm not an impulse buyer. I'm a very practical buyer. So that's why I've been waiting to back this like 2 weeks ago for legitimately like a month and a half.
Sorry about that.
We kept you on your toes. Sorry, dude.
I knew it was coming. It was just one of those things where I understand what's coming down the pike, and I again am the master of my money. My money's not the master of me. So
we didn't even know if it was really going to happen or not. So,
but I think it's very exciting.
I'm glad it did.
We spoke about stretch goals. There's some prints also that are out there, and they got upgraded, which is awesome. I love when stretch goals actually hit. I've been the victim of stretch goals not being delivered. Very upsetting. Very, very upsetting.
No, it is sad.
Hope
we hit ours very soon.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool with that. And obviously there's been a lot of cool stuff, and something at 90 is supposed to happen. So I don't really know what's going to happen at 90 Canadian dollars. I will add. But we're pretty close to that. So hopefully we'll get there. I have a feeling we're going to get there. It's just a matter of when we get there.
Yeah.
We're seeing if it's going to be unlocked. So I'm very excited for it. I hope it's a commentary. I will get an audio book of this book. I would
That'd be
pay for
fun.
the audio book for this.
That would be fun. We should do that. It's
Yes.
a great idea.
I think you should do a complete audiobook, not a commentary, an audiobook.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
I'm just saying. I have a bunch of ideas. I got this thing planned out. And so obviously a bunch of stuff's coming. A bunch of bonus stuff is coming. A bunch of extra pages. All sorts of cool stuff is in this. Obviously behind the scenes. You name it. Pretty much anything. If you're a fan of Divinica or you just like Dawn's art, you should buy this thing.
All of it.
Thank
Buy all of
you.
it.
You should just buy this thing anyway. You shouldn't even ask questions.
I know, Troy. I really need to. I will soon.
You should
Got
just buy
busy.
this book and just run with it, and then just keep it on your shelf, and and then or buy the limited edition and just keep it for like 3
Well,
years.
it's gorgeous no matter what. So even if you don't care much about the goddess one way or another, the artwork inside is,
And the story is incredible.
well,
Absolutely.
Sometimes we struggled, but the artwork is really gorgeous. I'm going to have to bow out, people, because I'm keeping Eric from shipping, and he has like half an hour left. So I'm going to have to say goodbye because he's got to bang the tops into the tubes for the print, and it sounds like the end of the world. So I'm not going to stay live while that's happening. So can't wait to hear the audiobook in Donglish.
Oh no.
So at this point, before you go, I'm going to give you an opportunity to promote yourself and self-promote. Where can people find, obviously, JP Roth? And then I got like 3 more questions for Dawn afterwards. But where can people find Rothic Comics? Obviously, where can people
Go
find
to rothic.com. Ablaze Publishing is also carrying the full graphic novels of my work. You can order Ancient Dreams in many formats on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, pretty much anywhere. If you actually, but Rothic.com has all the links right there. It'll take you everywhere. There's a whole page devoted to Divinica where you can read the stories, look through the different art. And yeah, that's where you can get it. Rothic.com. And then you can follow me from everywhere there. It's the easiest place to go.
So buy the merch, everybody. Buy the merch.
Yes, there's lots of pretty things to buy. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Andrew, so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate
Well, 4 years. 4 years. I've been waiting for this.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I would stay, but I'm going to start getting the stink eyes.
It's okay. I understand. That's a super
Yes,
busy.
15 minutes.
Hour
to
and
do
a
it.
half conversation. So it's all good.
Bye, you guys. I love you,
Love you
Dawn.
too.
Andrew, you have a lovely evening. Thank you, Troy. Everybody, Jeff, Carmen, Troy. Thank you guys for being here. We're so
thank
close to
you.
our 80,000 goal. Haha, my bookmarks. Woo! Okay. Bye, everybody.
And then obviously me and Dawn are going to just talk for like a few more minutes because I got a few more questions and I'm sure Dawn can fill in the blanks of everything else. And so obviously, given that you're sort of, I guess, quarterbacking this Kickstarter, it's under your name and it's your first Kickstarter. And obviously, I am very curious because everybody has different Kickstarter stories. I've spoken to people who have run legitimately 30 Kickstarters. I've spoken to people who've run like 5 Kickstarters. And obviously, you're brand new to Kickstarter.
Yes.
So
Newbie.
I am super curious how Kickstarter has been for you and navigating it and analyzing it and even where you think the platform is going because it is a very interesting platform. I don't know if you've ever backed a Kickstarter before. Obviously, you've done covers for people's Kickstarters, but what has this entire experience been like for you, and even where do you think it's going? Because it is getting interesting with the entire big names coming in, and obviously Keanu Reeves did $1.4 million. Scott Snyder did like $400,000. Todd McFarlane with his toy did $5 million. And so it's a very cool place. Jamie Tyndall did amazing with Miss Meow or Merc Magazine. I'm not too sure which is the correct title for that. But I have your variant, so it's super cool. I like that variant. the nice version of that variant, I like that variant a lot. But even where do you feel like about Kickstarter and all that stuff? And I know that you're new to this, so if you don't have an opinion on it, totally, it's cool.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. It's under my name, right? But my husband, Dan, is the one that's actually done the Kickstarter setup. He's working on the backer kit. He is the one that is the brains behind the Kickstarter. So, a couple times Joe said, well, she's trying to get Dan to like let her do this, that, or the other. He's the one that's kind of running the Kickstarter for us. So I've looked at a lot of the paperwork as far as Kickstarter goes, and then a lot of the backer kit stuff, and I find it very overwhelming and confusing. I would rather keep painting. So the Forest Lord is my husband's Twitch handle. If I had to, I could probably figure it out. I mean, I can read, so I figure I probably could. But no, I don't really have a ton of experience. And even though it is my first Kickstarter, Joe and I are handling the art, the finishes, all the printing. So I'm handling the printing side. I'm the one talking with the printers. I'm going back and forth for print quotes when we actually do our print run. Once the Kickstarter is funded and done, that's going to be where I really kick in again. But as far as just first impressions of Kickstarter, I mean, everybody that backed our Kickstarter, I can't tell you how grateful I am, because I mean, Joe and I were not even sure we would fund, and we just were kind of like, even if we don't make the print bill and we don't reach our goal, we'll just do it anyway because we want these pretty books to be made. But, we're so grateful. I mean, we funded in under 3 minutes. That's you guys. Thank you so much. So we're just incredibly happy and incredibly grateful to everybody who has supported us so far.
And one of the things about Kickstarter, and obviously I know a lot more about it. I've never run a Kickstarter. After doing a year and about a month of this. So I started last March. I did 90 interviews. Most of them are indie comic creators who do Kickstarter or Indiegogo, which might be the second thing if you have extras that you want to get out in a crowdfunding way, which is what a lot of people do right now.
Oh, interesting.
Kickstarter methodology is that they also put, their extra print stuff up on Indiegogo, same price as well, which is kind of cool. Which I think is appropriate, by the way. I think if you charge more on Indiegogo, I think that not a good look.
No.
For the less, it's not a good look either. But this idea that Kickstarter provides analytics in many ways, it acts as a social platform in a lot of ways. People who you back see what if you back something, they see what you back, and I see what other people back, and then if I run a project, people are going to see people back in my project. It's a super cool platform as a whole. It's also
it's very much a community-based shopping spree, or like it's everybody's going to the respective comic shop, at least in the comic book Kickstarters, and I got this at that comic store. I got that, it's kind of fun.
And also it also doesn't, you still need marketing behind it, where you can't survive on Kickstarter alone. Obviously, it's very, very complicated what's going on in Kickstarter, where when you do have all these big names like Boom Studios coming in, and you have Scott Snyder coming in, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, curse words, we can pick on them, Ryan Brown and Charles Soule. Obviously, for those who know, Charles Soule is kind of the Star Wars guy at Marvel. A lot of those Star Wars comics, obviously it's a big name, and Curse Words is a great book. And it was actually done cheaper than if it was being done in a store on Kickstarter. It's $80 for the entire hardcover of 32 issues on a nice hardcover bound book. Nice. And then it's a beautiful book, and then there's like an entire musical track sung by Charles of all people. Charles is not a good singer. Shh, don't tell him. But this idea is that I do find this Kickstarter to be cheaper. I think this book, if this was done through a publishing company, it would be more expensive, without a doubt. So I do like the idea of direct consumer. So I think it's personally great, but there's this debate where once we let big people in, where do we all land with all this stuff? And is the oxygen coming out of the room? And it's a very tricky question that's going on right now in the entire Kickstarter community. And I don't expect you to have an answer, given that this is the first round of doing this, and that this is your first project and JP's first project, where people have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 projects. Yeah. This is the debate that's going on with people who especially are doing like $3,000 and their funding costs are $1,500. And so it's a very cool thing that's going on and an interesting debate. But I do want to talk about another topic, and we spoke about it before, and it's my third favorite topic, which is COVID. Or maybe that didn't come out right. That didn't come out right completely. Obviously, if San Diego was happening in July, and this book is coming out, I think, in June, July-ish, expectation-wise, I think.
Well, no, we put it at September because we are printing it overseas, and we just want to play it safe as far as the ports and stuff.
But it's still sort of within that window where obviously I think it's pretty safe to say that con season typically is sort of April, May, all the way, and it sort of ends in October. New York Comic Con ends the route. And obviously with COVID, I would imagine that there was going to be sort of cons, if COVID didn't happen, would be incorporated into the entire promotion of this.
Absolutely.
And so how has that shifted this launch of the project, and even how to market it and how to push it out there and how to engage and how to even drum up attention for it? Because it is tricky now. And also it's going to be tricky moving forward with other projects that are coming on. I know that you do a lot of live streaming and all that stuff on your page, and that's super helpful, and obviously a lot of people watch that stuff, but it's becoming a very different world on how to promote your work. And also when you're launching a Kickstarter, it's also very different because it's also now you're in super indie versus something that's indie or has mainstream. I know the Zenescope stuff is a little bit more mainstream.
So just how is COVID affecting?
Like, how have you been affected, and how have you sort of shifted and navigated the marketing hat and figuring out how to balance all that and even promote Divinica and this art book out there and push it out there?
Yeah, it's we've had to think outside the box, and we're really grateful for people like you who we get to see a new audience and talk to new people, and trying to get involved in a few more Facebook groups and stuff. That's something that we've been working on. And then we do have some amazing friends that will be helping. We're going to be doing some interviews with them later. I'm going to let them announce first, so that's why I'm not spilling those beans. But yeah, we've got some people that are also going to be interviewing us, and we'll be talking with them about Divinica as well. And we have switched a lot more to the online live stream style model, which has actually worked out amazing. And I started live streaming before shows,
cool.
before COVID. And I'm really grateful that I did, because, then for me, it really wasn't a huge shift in my day-to-day that I had to do in order to, compensate for the loss of cons or, just interacting with people. So I'm really grateful for the live streaming. I'm really grateful to those of you who do watch my live streams. I love you. So I think that, yes, it's put a little bit more of a difficulty for us as far as just being able to randomly meet someone who's, walking in front of you in the aisle and may never have run across your Facebook page or heard of you or whatever. So, there is that is a little bit more complicated without conventions. And even for JP Roth, with all of her novels that are coming out, she would have been able to promote it a lot more had she gone to shows as well, So I think that there are those things, but whenever there's a new challenge, you just got to learn and find a way to work around it and overcome that, And I think that at the end of the day, we'll all be stronger for it. We'll all have a bit more of more involved with each other online. And, some people that we're all talking with like this, we may never have the chance to meet up at a show. So there are benefits to the online model as well. So all in all, I'm happy.
It's a very small world.
Yeah.
In a given month, I speak to probably 16 to 18 people, and all over the United States and sometimes all over the world.
That's amazing.
I'm working on getting somebody from the continent of Africa. That is the there are only 2 continents I have not touched. And technically, I mean, Asia and Africa. Every other continent I have touched minus Antarctica. And it's kind of crazy to think about that.
That's awesome.
Very, very cool. And so it's a very small world, and it's a very small comic world. And obviously, I think a lot of people know who you are, and I think that's one of the cool things about this book is that we have some amazing art that is not what I think people know you for. And that's why I wanted to do this interview, partially because I think Divinica is something that is very much outside what you are known for.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know you for Zenoscope and some other covers and Lady Death, and Divinica is very much different from those other art forms. And it is nice to see an artist being able to do not just the same trick over and over again, but actually do a bunch of cool art.
Oh, thank you.
So I personally love it. So, and I'm very excited for the book.
That means a lot. The fact that you know all the issues of Divinica and you've got all the covers and you had pictures ready and everything, that's so awesome of you. I know it meant a lot to JP Roth. I can only imagine, and it really does.
I'm catching up on issue 5. I'm still catching up on issue 5.
Okay, that's fine.
The first 4, I'm completely honest, I'm sort of behind. I'm 80% there, so I will take my B status. I'm a solid B plus player, like Daniel Bryan. That's all I'm going to say. And he won at WrestleMania. So if a B plus player can win at WrestleMania, so can you.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff Lee.
All your friends are here, and none of mine are. Don't forget a towel. They know me very well. So. I know exactly who was commenting when they made that statement. I know exactly who out of that group was commenting. But anyhow, on that note, I'm going to give you an opportunity to self-promote yourself because obviously you got your Facebook page. For those who are wondering where can they find you on Facebook, Twitter is super helpful. Obviously, I put your website up in the description. I put the Kickstarter up in the description. I put JP Roth's, I think Roth Comics. And you could actually find everything from her position out there. And beyond that, where can people find you? And just remind people where they could find you. And also Kickstarter, where can they find that? And anything else that you got going on. Because a bunch of cool stuff's happening. And also, I will say this, that Zenoscope is using a really cool surfboard Robin Hood thing for their virtual con.
Oh, cool.
And I love that cover.
Really? Oh, yay. Thank you. Yeah, right now I am painting Divinica issue 6. So I'll draw the page and then paint the page. So I'm doing all of that live. Thankfully, most of the companies that I work for do allow me live streaming permission, which is really cool. They release me from the NDA that you're usually under when you're working on comic book covers. And
they want to sell their books.
Yeah, so I get to show the process, and so yeah, right now I'm working on Divinica interior pages, which is really fun. I am just in painter mode, and I love it. And then I'll be switching in May. I'll be working on some covers for Coffin Comics and Zenoscope, and those are the more traditional. What you traditionally think of in comic book covers. They're drawn on paper, they're inked on paper, they're colored on the computer. So I really enjoy being able to, play in all the different little pawns that there are in comic book art. It's really fun for me. It keeps me very interested and challenged. So I'm happy about that. So yeah, I have a live streaming. I stream to Twitch and Facebook simultaneously. So if you are more of a Facebook person, you can find me there. If you don't have a Facebook or whatever, you can find me on Twitch. Twitch is far more fun, I think, as far as the chatting goes. I think most of the people that are following me on Twitch are just there to shoot the shit with each other and make fun of me, which I welcome. So it's all good.
and I will say this, that the Robin Hood comic cover I mentioned, that's actually a print on your website right now, and it's Robin Hood Barbie is what it's sort of labeled as. So if you want, you can actually go purchase that right on Dawn's website. Super cool, and I think it was just recently added. And so something to keep in mind. But again, don't ask if to be signed. It's shipped out of the U.S. So
Yes, it
I
is.
actually read that disclaimer.
Yeah.
I actually read people's websites. So keep that in
Thank
mind.
you.
It's $20 for the print. It's actually pretty much in line with wherever else you're going to get it. And I don't even know if you can actually even get it from Zenescope at the moment. I don't know if they sell that print in particular anymore. And I know that you can get that comic book on eBay, and I don't know if you can get it on Zenescope's website. But obviously, go buy that book if you like that book, and buy the print if you want the art print from Dawn's website versus somebody else's, because obviously, if you buy it from Dawn's website, she gets the money. And it's not that much, cheaper or more expensive either way. So keep that in mind. And also on your website, I think, what is it, $50 or an over, it's free shipping. So
Free
if you got
shipping.
3 prints and they're all $20, you're gonna get free shipping on all that stuff. So keep that in mind too.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'm selling everybody today.
Yep.
I should take Jason's job. Climb up the ladder. But I'll get an IT degree first. And if somebody doesn't understand that joke, it's a Zenescope internal joke.
Oh, okay.
It's not a joke if you watch the right interview with the right person that I did that with, who may or may not choose some of your covers. So complete code discussion, by the way.
Okay, I think I know what it is you mean.
So that Joe Cotton, right?
Oh no, I thought you were referring to.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Oh, I see.
So anyhow, the whole different joke right there, completely, which makes the first joke even funnier to some degree. But anyhow, I'm going to be saying this because it's super important to say this, and obviously you have to support indie. I've been saying it so many times now, and I'm really getting sick of saying it, everybody. So please go support indie. And what that means is obviously back Davinica. Really, really cool book. I think this is a cool art book if you like art books. And depending on how much money you have and a variety of other things, there is a tier for everybody. Or depending on your personal taste, there's a tier for everybody in this entire project. And also, as JP said, that if you don't back this project, you don't get access to backer kit, and there's more exclusive stuff behind backer kit. And so keep that in mind too. Yes. That you could back this at just for the regular tier book, and then you can get access to backer kit, and you might be able to get access to a variety of cool stuff that you may or may not have wanted or needed, or you might be, oh my God, this is awesome, and it is super limited. So keep that in mind if you're hearing this. But you could also back digitally if you're just interested in reading the book. Both versions of the book, obviously they're different tiers. Also, one of the things that was not mentioned is that you do get a digital book of this as well with the physical print. So if you don't feel like opening up your physical book, you can read it digitally.
Yep.
And also, I would imagine the digital book is going to be sent out sooner than the physical book, and you're going to get it immediately, so you're going to actually be able to see it. It might not be the greatest resolution because computers can be tricky, but
we'll do our best for sure.
But no. I think a printed book always has just better quality.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But what I'm getting at here is that you should be backing this project in some shape or form, because even a $20 digital tier goes a long way, and it does make a difference. And that you're also getting this comic, and this bonus comic, I think, also is going to be digital as well. And so that's super, super important as well, where you're going to have access to the entire thing. So obviously super cool stuff. But if you are in a circumstance where money's tight and things are difficult, and before I say that, obviously there's a bunch of other work that's coming out with Coffin Comics and Zenescope. That's another way also to back artists, is actually buying their covers from other companies that they work for, because it tells that company that that artist is in demand. Yeah. So if that's the circumstance, and maybe or maybe not, there might be something going on with Zenescope next Thursday and Friday, and maybe or maybe not, there might be something that they throw out there, whether it's virtual con or not, I don't know, but could be. Just
you
saying.
seem to know something, Andrew.
It's on the banner, okay?
Oh,
It's
okay.
on the banner, that Robin Hood thing. And so I'm just being a very good gumshoe detective here. So please, everybody, you never know. It's a safe bet because let's be realistic. You could always put money that a Chazos, a Garvey, a Mike Chrome, a Mike DeBaffo, a Don McTeigue, Stan Kumanaki, if I didn't mention it, Ebass book might show up. Paul Green book is going to show up. We know that. I mean, these are just the usual suspects in Zenoscope. And if you look at a bunch of streams, statistically, at least 4 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 that I mentioned are going to show up. Statistically,
Yay.
at least 4 of them are going to show up in some format or another at some point. But anyhow, I digress. Now, as I was saying, clearly, if you don't have any money or money's tight, and all jokes aside, if money's tight, please follow people on social media. Because it is super important to follow people on Twitter, Instagram, check out their website, email list. Big one right there, super important to sign up for people's email list. And just check out their website, comment on their stuff, watch the live stream. You know, it's free. You put it on in the background, comment, just give it a thumbs up, share it, share the Kickstarter.
Makes
super
such a
important.
difference.
Because you never know who's watching it, you never know who's seeing it, you never know who's checking it out. And so that's what I say. And please, you know, obviously support indie in any which way you can. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word because my throat's killing me.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for having us. I'm saying that for JP Roth too. I'm not thinking of myself as the, you know.
This is all Ebass's fault.
As like the royal we here. But thank you so much for supporting us and for being here. Really, yeah, exactly. Really, really appreciate the support on the Kickstarter. Thank you for having us, Andrew. Thank you so much to everybody who shows up on my live streams or has, you know, said an encouraging word about Divinica or any of the other Rothic books or anything that I work on. Thank you guys so much. And I want to put a little pitch in here too. JP Roth has novels out and they are truly awesome. I love reading her novels. You know, if you don't know where they are, you can go find them on rothic.com. She has links. There's audiobooks. There's digital books you can get and all of that stuff. So please take a look at all the different things. And thank you in advance if you're planning on backing the Divinica Kickstarter. We love you and we appreciate you. And thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. You're the best.
Buy the merch, everybody. Buy the merch, back the Kickstarter. Super important. And on that note, I really couldn't have said it any better than myself than you said it. And I would obviously like to thank JP Roth. I'm sure you're going to take a look at the back end of this. And I also like to think that you came on a second time, which means I didn't mess up the first time too badly.
Not at all. Thank you for inviting us for this. It's so awesome.
Yeah, no, I am very thankful that you showed up. And seriously, everybody, go back this Kickstarter because it's one of those projects that I think that if you back it, you're going to be very happy that you did back it. And I think it's going to be a missed opportunity if you don't. So on that note, I think that's a wrap.
Love you guys. Thank you.